So, hello and welcome to this podcast. We've got Oliver Studd, founder and CEO of Valhalla Network. We're going to find out exactly why community banks are a thing, why SMEs are starved, and why there's a credit chasm, why it's not obvious to most people the difference between these big banks and big businesses and the small and medium-sized businesses that are out there that are the cornerstone of employment and productive activity in the economy. What we're going to do today is go over what those things are and show you why community banking is something that should be part of the future. And if it doesn't, what's likely to happen if the chasm widens from where it's at. The figures don't look great, but they're not irrecoverable. We can go out there and we can catch this now. We can get this project off the ground and we can help these small and medium-sized businesses. So without further ado, let's dive right in. What's the normal answer? See, when people say, why did you begin Valhalla Network?
I say I set up banks. That's my short answer. I set up banks. And I work in the Web3 space, but I set up banks. And normally people will say, oh, that's very interesting. And I think they're either being polite or they don't understand what I've said.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it is, it's one of those things like, why would you need a new bank? Like, I think that's the question on most people's minds is like, why do we need we've got banks. Why do we need another one?
Or they think we hate the banks. We don't want more banks. That's usually people's mindset.
Is it?
I think so. I think that's been drilled into them. I think the media has done a good job of turning people against the banks, made them think that the banks are against them, against their interests, which, it's not true, but I can understand the spin on that and how they come to that conclusion, because some of the activities that, especially over the last 20 years, the banks have done could be questionable, and the regulators have pulled certain individual banks up on it. I think pretty much across the time, almost every bank, a big bank anyway, that has been pulled up on something that they've done.
Well, it's the classic old, it's the cost of doing business. They'll flirt with the rules and skirt the laws. And, what happens is they make, 10 billion quid doing whatever their plan or concept is. And then they get fined about 100 million and a slap on the wrist. And they're like, well, we made 10 billion and we paid out 100 million a fine. So it's not too bad. And then, it ends up in the media. So I guess their PR department isn't doing a great job there in terms of when someone in the office is working out those numbers to say, is this a worthwhile project? But lots of things, like a lot of people see, particularly in the UK, the PPI scandal and things like that. It was all driven by banks. So it's not uncommon to have a little bit of a weird spin. But that's, I take it you didn't. That's not why you started setting up banks.
No, we didn't do it because of the media spin on it. No, it was primarily due to. So let's rewind a little bit.
Take us back. Did you so you're an 8-year-old kid? You're running about down the south of England. Did one day you have an epiphany and think, I want to start banks? Like, where did it all begin?
No. So when I was 8, I still think I wanted to be a shark. When I was older, I was a little bit slow getting there, I think.
You're getting close, because a lot of people think bankers are sharks. So
well, that's true. That's true. So no, back when I was in school, I wanted to. What I wanted to do changed, but primarily when I was leaving school and going to university, I wanted to be a chemist, which is where that's why I did my first degree, chemistry. And then in my sort of final year of my bachelor's in chemistry, I realised I didn't want to do it forever, because you narrow too much your sort of what you're focused on. And I didn't like that. I enjoyed a lot of chemistry and I enjoyed the big picture, and I didn't want to be very specific about what I was doing. So I decided I wanted to do something different. And I thought I want to work for a big bank. That's what I thought while I was at university. I want to work for a big bank. The sort of reputation that comes with that, the image that these big banks have in the business world. Oh, that would be really cool. How naive I was. So then I did my master's degree in international banking, and then joined HSBC, commercial bank in the UK. which is a great bank for graduates. It's a great bank for people looking at getting into a banking environment in a nurturing environment. It's not a aggressive bank. It's not a nasty work environment at all. In fact, for someone wanting to work at HSBC, I think it's a brilliant employer. However, while I was there, I realised quite quickly that the truth of the matter, and I sort of knew it anyway because of my master's degree and studying banking under Professor Richard Werner. I knew that banks don't always act in the interest of small businesses. Let's say they're not focused on small businesses. So while I was at HSBC, I tended to work in the large corporate space, funnily enough, and then I went into the MME space. But it was apparent from the messaging that HSBC was putting out that a lot of the small business banking was, again, PR. We're allocating this amount of funds to support small businesses. Okay, out of that allocation, how much is actually lent out to small businesses? And that's another question entirely. And then I also knew that small businesses, they call up, they don't get the same person each time. It's not relationship driven. So the banking environment in the UK is dominated by these big Goliath banks. And consequently, the SME space is very underserved. So I didn't like that. I knew that it wasn't sustainable long term.